Okay, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. His name is Rudy Miick. Rudy is a certified management consultant sitting on the National Board of Directors for the Institute of Management Consultants. He is the co-founder and curriculum creator for UCLA Extension's Hospitality Management Program and was an adjunct professor there for 13 years. For more than 40 years, he's worked with the Miick companies on businesses, culture, and brands, and is widely known as a hiring guru in industries ranging from restaurants to retail in 6 different countries. He's raised in Hawaii and living in Boulder for 25 years. He's no stranger to living the resort and hospitality state of mind kind of life. Today, Rudy's going to talk to us about the current labor challenges as well as some proven ways to help solve them. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Rudy Miick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for being here and for having me. Chad, thanks for the great introduction. Based on 40 years of building companies throughout the United States and in 6 countries around the world, I want to share in the next 30 minutes, actually faster than that because we want time for Q&A, I want to share 3 observations and 5 action steps that we could take to step into what has consistently been a siren song of, oh my gosh, I can't find any good help, right? It doesn't matter where we are in the country, it doesn't matter where we live, doesn't matter where we are even in the world, but that siren song seems to have been consistent all along the way. In the last, I would say 8 to 12 weeks, the issue of hiring has ramped even further to the point of not only can I not find any good help, I can't even find anybody to apply. And if they do apply and we do hire them, they ghost us and don't show up. So those are data points in fact. This doesn't have to be the case, and there's stuff bigger going on, okay? So, a couple of data points. In June, unemployment, according to the Labor Bureau and CNBC and a bunch of other resources, we dropped in the US to 5.4% unemployment. It's still huge. There are jobs everywhere. Any of us that are running companies that are still going or growing, all of us have got jobs open. Almost no exception. Simultaneously, in the same month, in June, 832,000 people in the United States quit their jobs. Quit. Why? I'm not inspired. I don't have anybody to take care of my kids. I can't even make, even if I do go to work, I'm not making enough money to pay my bills. So what do? And the scapegoat on one level, it's not my goal to get political today. Absolutely, my position is apolitical, agnostic. So don't worry about politics this afternoon. The point is, what do? Okay, so observation number 1. Hiring is a symptom, it's not the issue. Hiring is a symptom, it's not the issue. The habit is wait for somebody to quit, run out and start interviewing and to find somebody to replace them, or we terminate them and they walk out the door and I'm forced to hire a pulse. Okay? Not an appropriate approach. Okay? So there are great people. My family is 4 generations from Steamboat. I was raised in Hawaii, so I know a whole lot about resort towns. There are great people in resort towns. There are great people in university towns like Boulder. There are great towns. Think of the worst town you can think of, maybe with the exception of Haiti, You would never want to live here. I'm thinking of Craig, Colorado, Meeker, maybe a couple other things. And if anybody's from Meeker, please, I apologize. I'm thinking of towns like Bakersfield, California, or Fresno, or Modesto, or pick the town of your choice. We've done projects there. And guess what? There are great people. The big issue, the opportunity is, instead of us finding them, how do we have them find us? Opportunity one. There are great people. The question is, how do we let them find us? Okay? And more so, and the bigger issue, in my experience with pandemic in the last year and a half, is this. More than them finding us, can they trust us to do what we said? Oh, we're supposed to be a great employer. 3 days into the training, the team member says to their buddy, hey, forget training, here's what's really true, right? Most of us have had that experience somewhere along the way in our career. So there's an opportunity there. So hiring is a symptom. Simultaneously, it's gigantic. Observation two, there's no going back to normal. Paradox is the new norm. I don't know about, I mean, supposedly we're done with pandemic, but here we are, right? Masks in hand and process. I'm not sure pandemic is going anywhere or any major shift. We're in a new time. So consequently, the concept, so many business owners, founders, boards are looking for black and white answers, yes, no answers. Paradox is going to be the new normal. I think it's been there all along. Hiring is has always been a great example of paradox in the first place. But paradox, that is multiple truths, are what the future is bringing us fast and furious. That leads us to observation number three, and that is this. We are all essential workers. I'm old enough, and most of us in this room are old enough to remember a day when we would say, hey, I just started a company. Want a job? Come and work for me. Come and work with me if we have a team. Let's work together, right? I'm the owner, you're not. I built this, you didn't. Any of those habits of talk have been the old story. What pandemic has shown us, and restaurants are a great example of this, is suddenly we have an awareness of, oh my gosh, there's such a thing as an essential worker. And where we are today is, and most of us have known this, I've got clients in 6 different countries, 3 of which right now, this week, 2 phone calls this morning, that literally were, I'm closing down for 2 days a week. We've got more business than we can deal with. I've got to close because otherwise I'm going to burn out the people I've got. What do we do? So do I care for my people? Do I just stay open and burn everybody out? So what is the opportunity here? It's bigger. It's a cultural shift that is tied to all of us are essential. How do we move from I am the owner, you're not, to we're in this together? Ism out of balance, capitalism, socialism, whatever ism it is, we're seeing harassment, hostile, any sexism, racism, any ism is out of balance. So how do we find too much I? People go hungry, I get rich. Too much we all go broke. How and where do we find the balance and the opportunity? This is a new dialogue, and it isn't, here's my offer to us as we move forward this afternoon. I think the opportunity is that business is going to be the new community builder. I think that values-driven business, I'm really struck, I'm not a member of Rotary, but I'm really struck by your rules of the road. I know that's not what you call them, but yeah, the four-way test. Whoa, okay? In my company, we've been, when I was a young guy in my 20s, literally, it became pretty obvious that to get a six-figure income, I was talking to Sally about this before we came up on stage, became pretty obvious in a restaurant doing maybe a couple million a year in gross sales. There's not much room for 5 or 6 or 7 people to make $100,000 a year. There's just not. A financial statement isn't going to work. But what does work was somehow opening the books, creating a profit sharing model of both gross and net. The owner still wins huge, and the team can actually get wage increases through performance. Oh, how do I get a wage increase? I actually get certified in job training. Oh, we build sales together, and guess what? Everybody gets a part of the profit, both net, gross. We set goals. It's not a giveaway. It's not a freebie. It's not handout. It's actually, how do we go into this together? There's opportunity there, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So the opportunity, I think, with this paradox is, again, owner and we are together essential. I often ask, think back to how many owners you know or founders you know that would just as soon say, just use common sense, as opposed to actually slow down to define excellence. Those days are gone. There is no common sense. If you and I had breakfast as a family 40 years ago or 50 years ago, that's gone. Dinner on a Friday night, forget it. Know how to set a table, know how to wash dishes. Are you kidding? So common sense is history. We need to, as owners, founders, team leaders, slow down and actually define excellence so the team can achieve it. That's part of the process. Hiring leads to retention. Retention leads to profitability. So with these, another option, AI is coming at us hard and fast, and a lot of folks out there think artificial intelligence, robotics is going to be the solution, and it's a phenomenal solution, except here's what nobody's talking about. Somebody, instead of having people be less important, my sense is people are going to be more important. Education is going to be more necessary. The opportunity to inspire, engage, train, develop the human people redundant, the people in my company to support the robotics or AI is going to be more important than ever. Here's classic. If you've ever been in a mom and pop business, I deal with this in the restaurant business a lot, even in the hotel business, motels. They barely, a great majority, I don't want to just spin this, probably, I would, in my experience, probably 60% of the companies out there that have kitchens full of equipment. Robotics, AI is coming. The kitchens are filthy. The equipment isn't maintained. It breaks down anyway. Here comes AI and robotics. They're not going to care. Those folks are not going to take care of the equipment anyway. So guess what? The opportunity for people, yeah, AI is coming, so is the importance of people. Pay attention to this. Both are true. It's not an either or. And I don't mean to be lecturing. I hope that you can hear passion and concern without lecturing, okay? One of the big cultural challenges that we're, I think, all facing, and some of us have seen this, translated it, is just like this meeting today. How fun is it both to be in a hybrid meeting, the folks on Zoom with us, and simultaneously here we are. I will say to you, this is my first public event in a year. So it's great to be here. Thank you very much for welcoming me. And it's incredible to be in a room full of human beings. How exciting. And simultaneously, my heart's beating a little bit because I don't know any of you. And whether you're vaccinated or masked or whatever you believe politically, who cares? The question is it safe? So I want to work. I want a living wage. I want to go back to work. Simultaneously, I've got my family at home. How do I be safe and make money and be something bigger? Here are just a couple other thoughts, and then I want to move. Does anybody know why trash is picked up every 7 days? Anybody know the quick answer? There's actually a number of reasons. Here's the first one. Because fly larvae birth on the 8th day. Safety and sanitation. Remember when being a garbage man or a garbage person was a respectable job, or being a framer on a house, or being a dishwasher was a respectable job, right? There's a reason. And how do we as owners, no matter what our company is, the year of COVID has taught us the opportunity to celebrate essential, right? Here's a real quick another story. The definition of the word restaurant is a place one goes to be restored. A place I go to eat, a place I go to be fed is the third or fourth definition down. Restaurateur literally translates to restorer of soul. I learned this when I was 31, and my life changed. Suddenly, the dishwasher was not a dumpy that we throw plates at and swear at and make jokes at. Is like, without the diver, without the dishwasher, we can't restore anybody. So treat that person with respect. Here comes the host. He or she looks like a host. They're a restorer of soul. They look like a bartender. They look like a delivery person. They're a restorer of soul. What if we went there? There's an opportunity. So choice is the key. Number one, instead of depending on common sense, can I actually define excellence? Can I go to the both end of everybody's essential? Certainly in the last 8 or 12 weeks, we've learned this. I've got a business. I'd love to open and get bigger and grow it and keep growing it, but I can't do it without help. So without repeating myself, what are some action steps we can take? There's 5 I want to offer. Number one, that hiring is a system. Instead of waiting until you've got to find somebody, we are constantly interviewing. And instead of posting help wanted, think about restoral of soul. What is the story I can tell? What is the opportunity? How do we change lives in the work we do, right? Sally, I think of your work in orthopedics, and any one of the folks in the room. What is the actual purpose of the work that our products deliver? Let's tell that story and train it. Hiring is a system. We're constantly hiring, constantly interviewing, and I'll go into more depth with this with Q&A. Number two, that there is no common sense. We've already talked about this. Number 3, everything's an interview. From across the room right now, the gentleman bussing the table right there with the mask on, would I hire the behavior I just saw? If the answer is yes, celebrate it. If the answer is no, coach it. And coach it to the positive. Here's what I loved. And to take your performance further, do this. Right? Instead of not that way, instead of thou shalt not, here's what will take your performance further. There's opportunity there, which ties us then to number 4, which is the concept of managers coaching, not being cops. Typically, and all the TV, all the podcasts, the great majority of the media, we teach to be a cop, to police to the negative, as opposed to coaching to the positive. There's an opportunity there we can say more. Last but not least, a lot of us are doing great work with annual 360s or quarterly 360 feedback. Think about this, take that even further to the point where feedback is continuous, daily. Here's what worked. To take it further, do this. So that at any given moment, I know where I stand in terms of performance. If performance isn't showing up, here's another concept not on the slide. I call it intimate strategic. Intimate in a boundary of I care about you. I care about you. I want you to be successful. And, not but, and strategically, here's the performance we need. If you've been late 4 times in the last week, instead of saying, God, you're always late, how pathetic you are. No, you've been late 4 times. I really want you to be successful. Strategically, here's what we need. What's it going to take for you to be on time? Need a new alarm clock? Need a bus schedule? Need a bus token? What can we do? Right? I'll stop there. Bonus, last but not least. And then I want to open this up for questions. There's been a lot of talk, there's a lot of intelligence, a lot of high education in this room today. There's been a lot of talk for decades about values conflict, profitability versus training, profitability versus childcare, profitability versus higher wage, whatever the issue might be. I want to offer you the suggestion of, rather than thinking in terms of either or, values conflict, how do we have an opportunity to move values into verbs. Make the value actionable and integrate them. How do we, with the money with your $3,000 going to Haiti? It's not a lot, certainly not a lot in Boulder, but it's a heck of a lot of money in Haiti. And we can't do 50 houses, but we can do 3. So what can we do? There's a great example of values integration. Instead of we can't, here's what we can do. Values integrate rather than an either or, that our team then or employees go, see, I told you, profit wins. If it's going to be an either or, profit will win. And that certainly has been the case, but there's an opportunity to do both the more we communicate. All of these pieces integrate to the symptom of hiring that all come out of the culture of business and the culture that we build to move our brand. On that, I'm going to stop, and I wonder what questions you've got. I've thrown a lot of stuff at you in 15 minutes.
So most of us in the room, when we started our employment career, we kind of looked at it as a pretty long commitment. We researched that business that we were going to join and hire on, and we felt like we might be there maybe our whole career.
Sure.
Younger people today, and I don't want to pick on millennials, which I have 2
Oh, no, go ahead and pick on them. It's fine.
Okay. They don't look at employment the same way. They refer to it as bouncing.
Yeah, that's one term.
If they stay for more than 3 or 4 years, they feel like, oh boy, I was here too long. What's going on?
So this is the new norm. So the bouncing, right? So the question was, there was an era, certainly our parents, Some of the people in this room thought, I'm going to start out, have a 20-year career, retire, have a retirement package, a what, right, etc. What's the deal with Zs? What's the deal with millennials? They're bouncing. Yep, they are. Big deal. Who cares? Get over it. Here's an opportunity to think differently. I come out of the resort business, in the restaurant business from really early age. We open and close 4 times a year. I terminate everybody at the end of the season, not now so much because we do summer seasons even in winter resorts and winter seasons in summer. But here's an example. I'll finish the resort thing, but there's an even better answer. So we open and close 4 times a year in the restaurant and the hotel business. It's just normal. And if I do well, I get retention back. Maybe somebody leaves for 4 years, they go to college, they come back, or they go somewhere else and they come back because nowhere else treats them as well as we did. That's one. Here's the other. It's a great question. It's a hypothetical. You have an opportunity. 2 potential team members. One is whatever you're going to call A+, the other is C. You with me? A C player and A+ player. The A+ player, you have the opportunity to hire for 1 year. The C player will stay for 5. Which one are you going to take? A+, baby. You're not going to take the C player. Why would you do that? Take the A, train them, inspire them, guess what? They'll stay. Or if they do bounce, they'll tell all their buddies and they'll create a wave that keeps people coming. That's been my experience in 6 different countries, in a whole bunch of different industries. We work actually in 11 different industries. What I just said comes true in every one of those. And literally maybe even to a 6-month timeline. I said a year. Yes, sir.
Well, I want to respect the notion of that we shouldn't be discussing politics or in this.
I'm happy to go there, but I just want to also be.
I'm trying to keep it non-political. But my question is this: you've given examples of basically small companies, an individual owner dealing with an individual. In other words, he's going to know all of his employees. So my question is, in larger circumstances, do unions play an interesting or important role in this communication?
Thank you very much for the way you framed the question. So in case you didn't hear, the premise was that I framed the dialogue around smaller companies. So I want to clear that up in just a moment. And then part 2 is, well, what relevance do unions have to quality? Right? If I'm paraphrasing, but did I? Okay, number 1, I'm alluding to small companies, meaning, and by the way, small companies in the United States government, $500 million, $500 million a year qualifies as a small company. So just for what it's worth legally. And thank you for pointing out your translation of what I was alluding to. So I've worked with only 6 publicly traded multi-billion, international companies. However, those public companies, the process has been the same. I work with my personal experience, so in the stuff that I'm pontificating, certainly there are hundreds of $900 million to $1 billion companies that we've played with that are privately held. So this is not necessarily small. In bigger venues, multinational, multi-state, multi-province companies, think of management or districts or divisions as opposed to a mom and pop, okay? So I just want to clear that up. To the point of unions, are unions intrinsically bad? I don't know. I'm a blue collar guy. My dad was a union guy. He was a coal miner in Oak Creek. Literally. Coal miner in Oak Creek. My grandpa was a coal miner in Oak Creek, mining supervisor, helped build the Moffat Tunnel. Unions serve a purpose because when we as owners get greedy and treat people like a four-letter word, guess what? There's a point for a union. But we can actually build, what I'm alluding to is there's an opportunity around hiring and culture to build high performance companies, that meaning 3 to 5 time median average, double digit profit and sales. Unions serve as a default when we get greedy as owners and treat people like crap. That's a 4-letter word I can say, I guess. Okay? I'm thinking worse. So, same thing with government. For anybody in the audience or anybody out there that hates government, right? Government is there because we're not taking care of business. We don't take care of our people. We don't take care of our community. We don't follow the law, or there is no law, so we create government. It's a default. Very rarely in our culture, and certainly in the United States, do we talk about this. So, did I answer your question or come close, I hope? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. In other words, they serve a purpose, absolutely. And another thing that I didn't address, but it's probably since Vietnam, probably since the late 60s, certainly in the United States, we have tended to create a victim-driven culture. It's not my fault. I'm going to sue you. It's anybody's fault but mine. So we're pointing fingers at each other, us and them, right, left, you, them, they, other, whatever. And the opportunity is how do we get rid of that and actually hold accountability with each other? I think part of that is defining excellence, defining values, and sharing some vision and connecting. So anyway.
We are going to pass a question over to our online audience. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry. Mike?
Meryl, go right ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, am I unmuted, Mike?
Yes, you are. Go right ahead, Meryl.
Great. So I appreciate everything you're saying. It really, as you said in the beginning, you're trying to embody our 4-way test and how you deal with businesses. So I clearly approve, and I wish more businesses would get the message. But my question concerns a resort town in Colorado that we go to each summer in July to see the flowers.
Okay.
Crested Butte. And
CB, it's one of my faves.
This last summer when we went there, I was amazed at what had happened. Essentially, restaurants were closing at 6 o'clock p.m. Because they couldn't find enough help.
Yep.
And the help was wonderful. I think the owners embody the principles you're talking about, that we never got a rude employee. But they just can't find employees. And I gather from talking to them, this kids 20-somethings used to rent houses in Crested Butte and split the rent, and then they could afford to live there, go mountain biking on weekends and so on. Now the housing prices are so high, they can't even afford to do that.
Yep.
So they can't find employees. Here's my question. Are there ways that a town like Crested Butte could respond as a town to this problem and help find employees?
The short answer, I love the question. The short answer is yes. And in fact, some towns are doing that. Truckee out in California, Squaw Valley is actually working on that, or the town right around Squaw, but Truckee is a town that is actually doing this. Steamboat is actually in Colorado, is actually having those dialogues as well as a community. Those are two that I'm aware of. This is enlightened thinking you're asking, and definitely part of the deal, because this is a cultural dialogue for sure. But those are two towns that are taking that conversation.
Well, if you get a chance, see if you can consult with Crescent Butte. They need to start taking this approach.
I would love to do that. If you know anybody there, have them call me.
Okay, you got it. Take care.
Thank you.
How about now? Yeah, okay. Rudy, we want to thank you for being here with us today. You were great. We've certainly learned a lot. My personal frustration right now hiring by the time I'm making an offer, because I do spend a lot of time making sure this is the right person, and I want them to meet my whole team, and I want them to be invested in being there, and they're getting pulled away. But you know what? Maybe they were all the C's, and I just need to keep looking for my A's. So thank you very much for speaking to us today. And on behalf of Boulder Rotary, in your name, we are donating 100 doses of polio vaccine to the Polio Plus Fund. We are this close to eliminating polio from the planet. So thank you very much for being here.
I'm touched by that gift. Thank you. Bravo. Thank you, guys.